So my name is Sarah Staff and I'm a director of the British Security Industry Association. Prior to doing that role, I did 30 years in the Metropolitan Police and retired as a Detective Chief Inspector on the Flying Squad. Any of those of you that worked in London would remember the Sweeney on the television. That's what I did. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about current trends, the threat that we see. So SaferGems is basically a UK initiative that looks at crime that is suffered against the jewellery, pawnbrokers, the arts and antiques trade, and we capture that information. It was introduced in 2009 when we saw an increase in the offending. And basically what the initiative does, it collects information and intelligence. So it's approved by the Home Office and endorsed by the National Police Chiefs Council, and we have an information sharing agreement with them, so we can work really closely with the police. And since it started, we've collated over 10,000 crimes and suspicious instances for our members. The initiative is funded by the jewellery industry, so our sponsors are the National Association of Jewellers and also TH Marsh, who are insurance brokers, and hosted by the British Security Industry Association. So that's why I'm here, because the BSIA hosts this initiative. And currently we have about 5,500 members. Some of you today, your companies or clients will be members of SaferGems. So if I just talk about some of the things that we do, so one of our key aims is to produce alerts for our members, and that's basically looking at current and emerging threats. We also circulate images of suspects and methods that they will use and the crime prevention advice that should go with it. So the team work really closely with all 43 UK police forces and the industry. And basically with those strong links, we look to identify organised crime groups that travel around the country. And criminals don't stay in a local area, they will travel around, and that makes it very hard for the police because they are moving around to different districts and force areas, and there's not that ability to communicate. But that's what we do. We are the link between the police and the industry. And since we started, we've done over 300 identifications, which have resulted in arrests and convictions. So it's a successful scheme. So if we just look at last year as a gauge, so I'm very pleased to say from when I was in the police, the number of crimes are much lower than what they were. So we had 32 armed robberies last year, 16 of those were armed, and just over £2.1 million were stolen. In relation to thefts, there were 132, and again, £2.1 million were stolen. The other areas we look at is burglary, there were 56, and reports of fraud, only 63. So the crime numbers are low, but still, one crime is one crime too many. So if we concentrate now in 2024, we have seen a continued reduction of crime, but we still do see it in these areas of theft and burglary, robbery and fraud. So in my presentation this afternoon, I'm just going to sort of do a little bit of a deep dive into some of those areas for you. So if we look first of all, organised retail crime. So prior to the pandemic, we saw Eastern European organised gangs really targeting the retail industry, but we have seen a reduction in those types of thefts. However, we do still see the sleight of hand and the distraction technique being used. And this is committed by highly organised gangs, and they're very professional in how they effect these offences. And in fact, through SaferGems, we've been working really closely with the US to identify organised gangs that come over to the UK. We've got super recognisers on the team. They recognise these individuals, notify the US authorities, and these individuals get arrested. So again, we have a far reach, not just in the UK. Right, so prevention advice, if we talk about the sleight of hand, which is one of the sort of offences that we see. So what we say to retailers is that if you have more than 2 people come into your shop, we say please be aware that they might be operating as a gang. Often you will have individuals that try not to show that they're connected, but actually they are. We encourage staff to use a code word, so if they're suspicious, or to call over another member of staff to help them with the transaction and to maybe just confirm what the price of the item is. And then you've got 2 pairs of eyes on those individuals. If there's additional staff on the shop floor, we say go and loiter by the door, because that's the tactic that they use to aid their escape from the jewellers itself. When you have those individuals in the shop, make sure that your cabinets, displays, units, they're locked and the key is nowhere to be found. When you get multiple groups coming into a jeweller's, they will try and use a distraction method by asking lots of questions, asking to look at things on different display cabinets, and that's to try and cause confusion, to allow for that distraction technique to be used. Also be alert if you see individuals that are flashing the cash, got a large amount of money that they're openly displaying to you. Again, that's trying to draw you into to give the belief that they're a genuine customer with lots of money. Another tactic they use is they like to ask for the item to be gift wrapped and boxed. And then whilst that process is being done, they are then doing the sleight of hand. And I've watched many videos and they are very, very effective at doing that. And I can't believe how they've done it. They will then say, I don't actually have enough money on me, or I'll come back. I'm just going to go and get the transfer and I'll come back. At that stage, that is a trigger for your staff to say, I'm just going to unwrap the box or the packaging and check what is inside, because that's when they will have exchanged it for a fake item or just removed it altogether. So before they leave, you must check that box, gift wrapping, whatever it's been wrapped in. And very sadly, unfortunately, often a switch will have taken place. So we do give that advice. So moving on to another area of crime is the hole-in-the-wall burglaries. So again, this is for your retailers. So since 2018, SaferGems has recorded just under 60 of these hole-in-the-wall burglaries. So they're being committed by organised gangs, and it's right across the country. And effectively, it's the method of tunnelling in to the jewellers, and it's normally through either an empty premises or an adjacent premises nearby, and they will use that method. So the majority of these offences are committed by organised gangs from Eastern Europe, and they are trained specifically to do that one offence. So they will be flown in, they will commit that offence, and then they will leave very quickly. And it makes it really difficult for the police to actually investigate these crimes, because they're in and out very quickly and very effective in what they do. So the tools of the trade, they commit these offences at night, and they often are not armed, because they know that they're actually not going to be disturbed by the police or by occupiers or by the shop owner. And then, as I say, they leave the UK very quickly. So in May 2020, the Metropolitan Police Flying Squad identified a linked series, and they've called it Operation Predor. And they're confident that it's a Romanian organised crime group that are committing these offences. They've already arrested one who was responsible for a burglary at prestigious jewellers in Fleet Street. The operation continues, but this is just an example of some of the tools that these gangs are using. So a very effective high performance signal blocker. So they're looking to try and interrupt the alarm system, any signalling by the police. So they're looking to jam that. They also use hydraulic jacks, chainsaws, and all the equipment in order to have the time to be able to break into the premises through a vacant premises next door. So if we just talk about the crime prevention advice that we would suggest. So if your premises have changed since you initially had your alarm installed, we would recommend a security review. What we're saying to people is, if there is the opportunity to deploy a wall vibration detector, so some premises that have a safe on the external wall or adjacent wall to a premises, we're suggesting that it would be good to have a vibration detector there. Some of these offences that have been committed, they've actually targeted the rear of the safe from the vacant premises. And most alarm systems actually require 2 triggers or 2 detectors before the police will actually attend the scene. So we're saying a review of your alarm system is really key. Fogging is a very good deterrent as well. Once the premises are full of smoke, it's very difficult to actually effect a crime. But what we're saying is it should be linked to your intruder alarm as well as your personal attack alarm. So if the premises are closed, then at least it's going to activate, and not to have it on the exit and entry of the jewellers. It's got to be inside the jewellery store itself. And sadly, as the high street is really suffering at the moment and many premises are becoming vacant, we would say look at your neighbours and say, right, is that going to be vacant for a while, or has it been vacant for a period of time? And do those checks. Has there been some activity there? Have things been moved? Is this a precursor to somebody looking to commit an offence? So it's just being aware of what's around you and taking those measures and reporting it to the police if you need to. Right, so I just wanted to touch on briefly super fake Rolexes. So over the last 5 years, we've seen an increase in this trend of super fake Rolexes being sold. They're called super fake Rolexes because they are of such high quality. Even the workings of the Rolex themselves are so well made that actually it's difficult for even experienced traders to actually identify that it's a fake one. These will often come with genuine Rolex boxes, certificates, tags. We know that there are organised groups out there that are actually faking the sales receipt from a Rolex dealership. So it's making the person feel like this is a genuine Rolex watch. So we are flagging this up and asking our members to notify us when sadly they come across something of this nature. So these are the ones. Actually, the one on the right is the fake. The other two are genuine, but very, very hard to see. And this was one particularly that went through a very experienced watch dealer, and unfortunately, they weren't aware that it was a fake. So what is the crime prevention advice that's coming with this? So always be very careful. So if somebody is coming out of your area from London to Manchester to sell a Rolex watch, have that as a bit of a flag in your mind. Why are they coming all this way? Why don't they try and sell it locally? They will be bringing with them accessories, box, the paperwork, but don't let that fool you that actually it's a genuine Rolex watch. They can very much do a sort of cut and shut like they used to do with the cars. They can put together the genuine pieces and the stolen pieces. And it's about asking yourself, not is it real, but are pieces of it real and are some of it fake? If you see that and you're not happy, then obviously report it to SaferGems and we will take the information and we'll work with the police. And obviously the questions to ask is, which Rolex dealership did you buy that from? And if they're uncomfortable with that, then they will just leave. What they do is they work around the country, so they will try and commit an offence in one area and then they'll move up north. So they're trying to keep away from the local police notifying or being aware of what they're doing. So they do travel, and that's the joy of SaferGems. We can coordinate from all 43 forces where these offences are being committed. So we have a watch register. So when we started, we got lots of notification from the police asking, when a watch is recovered or stolen, how do we track the destination of that watch? Where has it come from? Who does it belong to? So back in 2009, there was an opportunity for us to create a watch register which records luxury, stolen or lost watches with a serial number. And then that assists the police investigation. So if they recover it on a search or somebody stopped in the street with that watch, can't give a legitimate reason why they've got it, they can then search the database. So it gives a centralised, standardised database which greatly assists police investigations. So that's something that we've been hosting since 2009. So the next area I wanted to focus in, which we consider is a real threat over the last sort of 18 months, and that's crimes against the sales reps and mobile traders. And that's something that we've been doing a more deeper dive in to help the industry. So what I wanted to do first of all, with the help of Declan over here, is just to show you, some of you may have seen this footage, but it really just paints a really good picture, very sadly, of what can happen. So if you don't mind playing it for me, please. So this is down in London, 9th of November last year. A retail trader has just finished some business, going back to his vehicle. See the chap on the bottom right hand putting something under his vehicle. So that's one tactic that they're trying to deploy. There is a gang of about 6 people involved in this crime. So the trader's into his vehicle, putting down his bag that's containing a lot of very valuable goods. This is the next target that's coming to the vehicle. He's dropped some money on the floor, tapping on the window. "Excuse me, sir, you've dropped your £10 note, please come out." Whilst he walks away, chap with the hat with the white writing on it, very proficiently down, door open, and extracts the goods. So very proficient. He gets back into his car and it's gone. And they've gone. And they have effectively been targeting him, never to be seen again, sadly. So yeah, if you could stop that for me, Declan, thank you very much. So that really just highlights how easy the offending is to commit. So if we just look at the last sort of from January of 23, we are seeing most of these offences in the southeast, eastern and London areas, and they involve either distraction thefts or theft from motor vehicle. And that normally occurs at a service station when the trader or rep has stopped for a refreshment break. So we've recorded 21 incidences since the beginning of 2023, and the victims have either been followed on foot, as that example showed, or they've actually been targeted by the subjects following them in a vehicle. 4 of those 21 offences have involved the use of a tracking device on the trader's vehicle. So they are very organised and very proficient, and they are large gangs. They're up to 7, 8 involved in it. So there's lots of distraction. There's lots of people that have got their own roles as they try and commit these offences. Very sadly, some of them have involved violence, threats, physical assaults, the use of weapons against the traders. And 15 of those 21 offences have actually been committed, we believe, by South American organised crime groups. So it's very sophisticated and they're organised. They use anti-surveillance techniques, so they will wear glasses, they'll change their clothing, and as I say, they are very proficient. So the Metropolitan Police Flying Squad, we've been working very closely with them, and they are leading on this for the UK. So they will coordinate the information that we receive, we will send it to them, and also a central police intelligence unit called Opal, and Opal collates information and shares it with all UK police forces. So we are working on this, and events like this are obviously, we highlight that to the industry, to the police, that these sort of events are taking place in order to sort of parallel on the information that they're currently working on. So if we just look at the risk areas for mobile traders and reps, so from the sort of deep dive we've done of those 21 offences, the greatest risk is when you're travelling to or from your business transaction or from a trade event or fair. It's normally 90% of the time it is a lone worker, and they're being targeted at a service station, shop, train station, so that they are targeting those individuals. What we find is that when a trader actually goes to a service station, if they're alone, sometimes the goods are being left in the vehicle, and we're saying that you must take it with you. You must ensure that it's in a secure rucksack, and if you're in a queue getting a coffee or going to the toilet, please don't leave that bag behind. Please take it with you. And if anyone comes up to try and distract you, and I personally do it now, please don't speak to me, I don't know who you are, step away. You can be very rude, but they're trying to engage you, they're trying to get your distraction. There's something on your shoulder, you've dropped some money on the floor, whilst the other person is trying to dip into your bag or to steal an item. So you've just got to be very, very vigilant all the time, because that is the risk. From leaving your home address to going to the event, coming back is the key time an offence like this is going to happen. So I did touch on trackers, and so on the left-hand side of the screen, these 3 trackers have been found on traders' vehicles. So the 2 on the bottom, the square ones, fortunately enough, they weren't victims of crime, but the trackers were found when their vehicles went in. One was for a car wash, the other was for an MOT, and the garage found it in the gully between the windscreen and the bonnet, and they weren't aware of it. So they look quite big on the screen, but actually they're not. They're quite small items. And then the third yellow one that doesn't look particularly sophisticated, but actually that was involved in an attempted robbery in Wolverhampton in November. When the trader got back to his home address, he was attacked on his driveway. Fortunately enough, family members came out and they were unsuccessful in stealing the goods. But this was attached to underneath the vehicle with a magnet, and he believes it had probably been there for some time, and they've been obviously monitoring his movements and deciding the best place to attack him, and sadly that was at his home address. On the flip side of it, you'll all be aware of the Apple tags, and we are encouraging traders, reps, to deploy those in your briefcases, your rucksacks, when you're moving your goods around, because that will help you to track where they are. Goodness knows if you do become a victim of crime, then it does give you the opportunity to be able to track that. So we do ask people to have a look at that and consider the benefits. So in relation to your vehicles, it's the old traditional, there are solutions out there that you can look and see if there is a tracker on your vehicle, but the old traditional method of a mirror on a stick looking under your vehicle is a very good way of doing it. Visual check always, I would say, and magnets will be attached to a tracker, and sometimes they like to put them on the exhaust of the vehicle because actually the heat from the exhaust actually keeps the battery working longer, so they can follow you for longer to build up a understanding of your movements and sadly when the best time is to target you. So that's the advice. We say always check your vehicles. So if we look at the distraction technique, so from those 21 offences, the most prevalent one is distracting you at your vehicle. So if we go back to 2013 to 2014, that was the last time we saw this method of offence committed by South American organised crime groups. And they used the tactic of a shard of glass punching the tyre of the vehicle, which would cause a slow puncture, and as the rep was driving they would then have to pull into a service station or to a side road, and that's when they would start to commit the offence. They would go and offer the help, and whilst they were changing the tyre, then another member of the gang would then steal the items. Over the last 12 months, we have seen this offence re-emerge, and that's what's causing the greatest concern to the industry. We've also seen the distraction technique, as you would have seen in the earlier video, where they knock on the window, they say you've dropped some cash on the floor, you get out of your vehicle, and that's then when they try to get into the vehicle to steal. Most of these offences are being committed in London, but we have had some in Gloucestershire and Scotland over the last 12 months. So the crime prevention advice for you. Dash cams are a really good way in your personal vehicle of capturing evidence, indications that maybe you're being looked at, maybe somebody's tried to tamper with your vehicle, or very sadly, if you are a victim of crime, it will capture the evidence and be really useful for the police. The police really highly recommend the installation of a cage in the footwell of your car or in the boot. That is the very safest place to store your items when you're travelling from A to B, and will provide you greater protection than having it on the back seat or although a locked boot, it's a lot securer being in a cage. We also consider about having a rental car instead of using your personal car, because there won't be a tracker deployed. They won't know that you're hiring a car that morning in order to travel to the event, and therefore won't be able to track you. So there's always a consideration of hiring a vehicle. We suggest working in pairs. That's always good, a second pair of eyes. So if you do need to leave the vehicle, you're leaving it with a colleague, it's much safer in the vehicle. As we say, don't engage with people. When you're out and about doing your work, always look in your rear view mirror. If there's anything that you're suspicious of, then please report it to the police and to SaferGems, and we will know the bigger picture. So we will say, okay, well, that particular vehicle and those individuals were actually seen in Scotland. We've now seen them down in London, and we can link the cases together and then highlight it to the Metropolitan Police and to Opal. So it's just around being vigilant, and if at any stage on your journey or during your business you are concerned for your safety, just to ring 999, stay in the vehicle, lock it, and the police will come and support you. And that is it. So thank you very much for your time. It was a quick whirlwind through it all, but I don't know if anyone's got any questions at all. Lovely. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much.